European correspondent Benjamin Weinthal. He is with the Jerusalem Post. He's a fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracy. He joins us now from Berlin to give us some idea of what is happening over in Germany. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to my monologue here a second ago, Benjamin, but I sense that there's a change, that we've hit a tripwire of some sort. And this is the beginning of some really dark things coming our way for the world. Would you agree or disagree?
I agree. I did hear your introductory remarks. And what we're experiencing in Europe right now is domestic intelligence agencies are simply overwhelmed with a jihadi problem that spans the entire continent and the United Kingdom. There are 3,000 European jihadis right now in Syria. I suspect the number is significantly higher. And in terms of your remarks, I thought it was interesting when you were talking about a melting pot in the United States. What I've experienced in Europe, and I've lived here over 10 years in Germany, is resistance to this notion of melting pot. And there's been more of a boiling pot here. And we've seen that unfold, unfortunately, in France.
Could you go over some of these stats with me? Because I find these terrifying. Jews have been the target of 40% of all racist crimes in France in 2013. In Britain, the number of anti-Semitic incidents increased by 36% between January and June of this year. Do you have any more of these?
Well, Germany doesn't track anti-Semitic violence as carefully as France and the United Kingdom do, but there's a running catalog of horrors in terms of attacks on synagogues. There was a firebombing of a synagogue in Wuppertal, a city in West Germany. 3 Palestinian Germans were accused of the firebombing, and there's a trial going on right now. The problem here is there's been a tolerance of radical Islam. Finally, there was a breath of fresh air the other day when the socialist prime minister of France, Manuel Valls, declared a war on radical Islam. When I listened to remarks from the Obama administration in the U.S., they can't even bring themselves to identify that radical Islam is a problem, but you have a socialist prime minister in France who was able to do it. But at the same time, Europeans, including Germany, have failed to outlaw lethal anti-Semitic organizations like Hezbollah, the Lebanese terrorist organization, which is still legal, and there are 950 active members in Germany. Every year I attend, as a reporter, one of their rallies that takes place in downtown Berlin, and there's about 1,000 Lebanese Hezbollah activists, many of whom are members, marching through the street.
Help me out on where we go here, because I don't see anybody doing anything except talking, beginning to talk a good game. But I have a feeling we may be past it, and we have many Jews, and the Jews are just the canary in the coal mine. They're always the first one in the cage to drop. And once that happens, then it just spirals from there. So what is it that we do besides, in the case of the Jews, many of them starting to leave Europe? I mean, astonishing numbers of people.
Right. I mean, the Israeli Aliyah figures, the number of Jews who have decided to immigrate to Israel from France has increased. There were 7,000 French Jews who left last year. There are currently 5,000 French army soldiers protecting Jewish institutions right now in France because of the attacks. And as you point out, Jews are the canary in the coal mine. There's been a catalog of horrors since the second Intifada against Israel in 2000, where Jews have been attacked and many Jews have been killed. 2006, Ilan Halimi, a French Jew, was killed by a gang of French Muslims who had ties to radical Islam. And in 2012, in Bulgaria, Hezbollah killed 5 Israelis and a Bulgarian bus driver. The question is, are Jews safe in Europe right now? I would argue no. And France is really the most telling example. So there's 2 remedies. One is Jews can make Aliyah and leave for Israel, or they could relocate to North America. Canada and the United States are areas of or countries of refuge, or traditionally have been countries of refuge for persecuted Jews. But Europe is overwhelmed with the jihadi problem, and I just don't think they're going to be able to get a grip on it. Okay. But I would add one thing. Europe, and this is where I think there is some bundle of potential. Europe, if it wants, can regenerate itself.
How?
European court recently delisted Hamas, the terrorist organization in the Gaza Strip. So they need to crack down on these jihadi organizations. They're going to have to begin to possibly strip jihadis of citizenship.
Let me ask you this. How do you do that when you have the rise of Le Pen, you have Pediga in Germany, you have Golden Dawn in Greece? These guys, because the Europeans don't understand the American right, which is small government, they always turn to somebody who will solve the problem, and fascism is on the rise. So how do you get them to crack down on the problem without becoming fascist?
Right, well, I think these right-wing, extreme right-wing government or parties like Golden Dawn and what's taking place in Hungary with Jobbik, and as you mentioned, Pegida, those are clearly a threat and need to be monitored. But what I think the real danger right now, and Le Pen, of course, is a danger in France, is this toxic combination of left-wing Europeans working closely with European Muslims who have radicalized.
Okay. I appreciate you staying up so late in Germany and being on the program with us. God bless you, and we'll talk again. Back in a minute.
Thanks for having me out.